Hey guys, welcome back to another TEKDEP repair video. In today's episode, we're going to be replacing the battery and the speakers on this MacBook Pro. This is going to be a 16-inch 2020 model A2141. If you're looking for any of the parts or tools you see in today's video, we're going to have them linked in the description. They're also available at our website, TEKDEP.com. So let's go ahead and get into today's repair. So we're going to begin by flipping the unit over. And we're going to go ahead and take off the 6 pentalobe screws on the bottom. And now we're going to use a suction cup to help remove the bottom case. When that's our bottom case removed, we can now set it aside and we're inside the unit. All right, so the first thing we're going to do once we're inside the unit is take off this cover. And we're going to go ahead and unplug the battery management unit flex cable. And using a T5 screwdriver, we're now going to go ahead and unscrew the battery connector. And peel it away from the connector. And now the unit's safe to work on. So, as you can see, this unit's actually quite dirty, so we're going to go ahead and clean it up after we remove the parts we need to remove. So we're going to be removing the battery and both the left and right speaker. When it comes to this model, I'm actually going to remove the trackpad as well. This is an optional step, but it does make sure that when you're prying the battery off, you don't damage the trackpad and have to replace it in the future. So the first thing we're going to do is take a T3 screwdriver and remove the retention plate for the trackpad flex cable. And we're just going to go ahead and unplug the trackpad, peel it off the battery. Now we're going to switch back to a T5 and remove all the screws along the perimeter. So they come in sets of 2. So there's a set here, a set down here, 2 here, and then 2 here, and then 1 in the center. All right, and now our trackpad is ready to be removed. So to remove it, we're just going to open up the unit and feed our trackpad flex cable through and pull it out. So as you can see on these standoffs here, which are the screw points on the other side, there are little washers. You want to make sure you don't lose these and these stay with the trackpad. And these are what's responsible for that tactile click. If you don't install these, when you reinstall the trackpad, it's not going to click as nice. But here you can see the points that we're not trying to damage, so the 4 on the outside and the 1 in the center. The reason we take the trackpad out is when you're taking your spudger and prying the battery off, you can actually either rip off or damage the surface mount semiconductors here, and that would damage your trackpad. You need to replace it. So that's why I recommend taking it off, just to make sure you don't do anything like that. You'll notice that we actually have all of these. So sometimes the little washers here, they like to stick to the top case, and you'll find them just sitting up here. Make sure you take those off and leave them with your trackpad so you don't lose them. All right, so next we're gonna go ahead and fully remove our battery management unit cable here by unplugging it and disconnecting it from the other side. And now we're going to go back to that T5 screwdriver and undo the center screw here. This holds this battery daughterboard in place. And our battery is almost ready for removal. We're going to use some 98% isopropyl alcohol and soak the outside of the battery in it. This is going to soften the adhesive strips. Oops, looks like my cover is loose. So you're going to soften the adhesive strips and just make it easier to remove. All right, and since we're removing the speakers, we're also going to do the same to the speakers. And we're just going to let that soak in for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and start prying the battery and then the speakers off. All right, so after letting our isopropyl alcohol soak into that adhesive strip and weaken it for a little while, we're going to take a flat edge spudger. I like to use this large one. I don't recommend the small ones. It's easier to puncture the battery or hurt something. So usually the largest ones gives you the most surface area, makes it harder to do damage, and get under here and peel it up. All right, so it's our battery ready to remove. Now we can't actually remove it until we either tilt up or remove the logic board, which I'm going to show you how to do in these coming steps. So in order to remove the logic board, or at least tilt it up, which is what we're going to do in this case, we have to unplug a few connectors. We're going to start with the keyboard here. Of course, we need to unplug the speakers, which we're going to be removing later on both sides. And this little guy right here also has to get unplugged. I believe this is a T3. Let's check. Yep, it's going to be a T3 screwdriver to remove this retention plate. And unplug this connector. And we're going to go ahead and unplug the cable that runs up beneath the logic board in between the CPU fan here. As well as a connector on the other side here. Now we're going to take a T5 screwdriver and remove a few logic board screws. And switch back to a T3 for these bottom three. And continuing our way up the board, we're going to use a T5 again. And now we're going to unplug the Wi-Fi. This connection on the right-hand side here. Same thing on the left-hand side here. There's two more connectors we're going to go ahead and undo. And now we can go ahead and tilt the board up enough without, risking anything to get the battery out. So it's not going to be a whole lot, and you don't want to go too far. But you're going to take a plastic spudger and tilt the board up from wherever you can, just like that. And now we're just going to pull the battery out. And there it is. So that's our old battery removed. We do have to clean off the old adhesive strips. And to help us do that, we're going to soak them in more isopropyl alcohol and then scrape them off. So now that our top case is all good and ready for our new battery, we're just going to go ahead and remove the speakers. Again, we're going to use some isopropyl alcohol, just a little bit more to help break down the adhesive, and go ahead and start prying. So normally I'd recommend to be careful. You will break these speakers if you put too much pressure, especially in the wrong areas. But since these are already blown out, you don't really have to be too careful. We can just go ahead and rip them out. All right, so there's both of our speakers removed. We're now going to use some tweezers just to go ahead and peel off the rest of the adhesive. And again, one more time, we're just going to put some more isopropyl alcohol down and then wipe up all the remaining residue. And while we're cleaning, we're going to use some tweezers to hopefully take off large chunks of this dust in the fan. It's pretty packed in here, so it's not coming out quite as nice as I want it to. And right now we're just trying to get the really packed in stuff. That way we can come back through with the blower and get the rest of it out of here. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and grab our air duster and blow these out. And you'll notice in the corners here, there's going to be more dust that we're going to go ahead and pull out. Okay, that's actually it for that side. Let's check this one. Got a little bit in here. All right, so that's our unit all cleaned up. It should be a lot less noisy for our client. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is install our speakers. And again, if you guys are looking for these speakers or this battery or any other parts or tools you see in today's video, check out the links below or check us out at TEKDEP.com. If you're interested in a mail-in repair, very similar to the one you see today, we also offer that. Check out the link below for mail-in repair or check us out at TEKDEP.com. So these speakers are OEM pulls, so just like the ones we pulled out, except these are good. And that means we have to apply our own adhesive. So we're going to go ahead and do that and then get them installed. All right, so we've got our adhesive installed. We're just going to go ahead and peel off the protective tabs for the adhesive and install the speakers. If you buy aftermarket speakers, they may not sound quite as good, but they will come pre-applied or with an adhesive very similar to the OEM one. The adhesive we use in place is third party, but it is 3M and it is much, much stronger. So we don't need to use as much. So when you're placing this in, a couple things to note. You want to be as far to the edge of the case as possible and as low. So based off of this screw point for the bottom case here and this edge of the top case here, those are your two reference points. If you do, you'll line up perfectly with your connector there. We're going to do the same process for the other side. And now we're just going to go ahead and plug in our speakers while we are here. Actually, we're going to leave these unplugged. I forgot. We still have to install the battery. You don't want to plug these in until you install the battery because you'll either tear these or it won't let you tilt the logic board up enough to get the new battery in. So let's get that new battery ready for installation. So we're just going to unbox our new battery here. And first thing we're going to do is peel off all the protective coverings for our adhesive strips. And you don't want to touch these, but you want to go ahead and flip it around and get it ready for install. So again, we're going to lift up the logic board and slide our connectors to the battery, these little wires here under. You will probably have to do one side at a time. It can be difficult. All right, that was a little difficult to show on camera. So basically, what I recommend doing if you're going to do the tilting method, which isn't removing the whole logic board, starting from one side. So right where the keyboard connector is here, if you tilt the board up in this area, you can go ahead and get this side in by just pushing the battery junctions under. And same thing on this side. If you go right about here or where this capacitor is, it makes it really easy to get it in and you don't have to struggle with it. So once the battery's in, we're just going to go ahead make sure it's lined up, and push all of our cells down to make sure that they're fully adhered to the top case. And once we do that, we can go ahead and peel off the protective covering. We're good to go. And the very first thing we're going to do before we go ahead and insert any screws is just reconnect everything we unplugged, starting top down. And now we're going to be plugging in the speakers on the bottom and right and left hand side. And there we are, that's everything plugged back in. So now we're just going to go ahead and secure all the screws we took out. This is going to be the retention bar for that right hand connector. It's going to be a bar, of course, and 2 T3s. And now we're going to take the T3 screwdriver and screw in the bottom 3 logic board screws. And switch back to a T5 for the rest of the logic board screws. And don't forget to plug in the keyboard like I did. Connector can be difficult to get all the way in, so I recommend using the flat end of a spudger while you're closing the retention bracket. Alright, and keeping with that same T5, we're now going to screw in this center screw for the battery daughterboard. We're going to go ahead and open up the battery management unit flex cable here and put it in to the daughterboard. Notice that one side has a dot and is larger. This side has an S turn and is smaller. Smaller side with an S turn goes in the battery daughterboard side. The larger side with the white dot goes into the logic board. Alright, and with our battery management unit flex cable partially installed, we're now going to go ahead and install our trackpad. Of course, we first have to verify that all of the little washers are on all their standoffs, and now we're going to go ahead and open up the unit. Gently lift it in and pull our trackpad cable through. This can be difficult to line up. It's more of a feeling thing for sure. Almost there. Okay, so we're lined up on the bottom. Just have to tilt it a little. There we are. Alright, so we're all lined up. So now I'm going to first connect the trackpad cable to the logic board and screw that trackpad flex cable in. And then I'm going to go ahead and screw in all the T5s that hold the trackpad in. I recommend doing this in a cross pattern. This is just going to make sure that the trackpad lines up correctly, and you're not going to have to undo anything because screws are not lining up. And you don't need to go super tight on these. These are pretty much going to go finger tight. Alright, before we go further, we're just going to open it up and make sure our trackpad feels right. You should know how your trackpad normally clicks. If you can feel that, you're good to go. Now we're going to go back to that T5 screwdriver and connect the battery and battery terminal. And now we're going to connect the battery flex cable. And I always say this, but just to reiterate, if the battery is not charging, die as soon as you take it off the charger, anything weird with battery or battery percentage, check this flex cable on both ends. It's probably your culprit. Alright, before we go ahead and patch it up by putting the bottom case on, we're going to go ahead and verify it works. That way we don't have to take the bottom case back off. So we're going to plug in our charger and open up the unit and turn it on. All right, looks good so far. The one thing we're going to check is that the battery holds a charge when we unplug it and that it's reading the correct percentage. So it's at 53 right now. If we unplug it, does it stay on? Perfect, okay. So we're going to go ahead and leave it plugged in and turn it off. The reason why we're going to leave it plugged in is just so the battery builds a charge. You don't really have to do this. This is just me verifying that the battery is building a charge. You'll know over time, probably within a few minutes of you using the unit, if it's holding a charge or not. Now we only have one last step to do since we know it already works. We're just going to place our bottom case on, push it down, and click it in on both sides. And once we have it clicked in on both sides, we're going to take the 2 longest of the 6 bottom case screws and put them in the top right and left. This one seems like it has a warped bottom case, and that is why it's so hard to screw these in. There should be almost no resistance when you normally screw these in. All right, and with that last bottom case screw on, our unit is all good to go. So we already tested the battery, went ahead and checked out. We tested the speakers. As you can hear, they sound great, no rattling, doesn't sound muffled or anything like that, which means we're good to go. So that's going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and with the help of the community, we'll be sure to assist you. Again, if you saw any parts or tools you need in today's video, specifically the speakers or the battery, we do have those linked in the description below or available at TEKDEP.com. And if you're interested in a mail-in repair similar to the one you saw today, we also offer those in the description or at TEKDEP.com. We'll see you guys in the next episode.